This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Ask Boris. Mayor of London Boris Johnson takes your calls with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. On air and in the air. Live from the Emirates Airline cable car. This is Ask Boris on LBC.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, folks. It's cabin crew, doors to manual here on the Emirates Airline. It's 9 o'clock on Tuesday, 1st of July. This is Boris Johnson bringing you your one-year anniversary edition of Ask Boris on LBC. And we're about to soar skywards into the empyrean blue of a beautiful July day here in the docks. I've got my trusty colleague and help meet Mr. Nick Ferrari here. We're here to answer your questions on Ask Boris. Any questions you've got, any suggestions you've got for how to improve the lives of everybody in London, 0345 6060 973, or email boris@lbc.co.uk. So, Nick, here we are. We're taking off. It's looking absolutely peachy, isn't it? You've got to admit, it is looking stunning.
It's looking lovely. We'll talk a little bit more about that. There's your first caller at the top there, Mr. Mayor.
We're going to go straight away to Jamie, who's in Woolwich. Jamie, you there?
Hello there. Yeah, I'm not in Woolwich. I'm actually in North Woolwich, which is north of the river.
I'm so sorry.
Hi there.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, okay. I've got a question about Crossrail, basically. You can probably see where the works are going from your cable car there.
So I've just actually cycled past the Limo Peninsula and the huge works there.
I just wonder why the decision was made not to actually link up the Crossrail to the city airport with a station. It was told to us it was on cost grounds, and yet I believe about 17 million people use the airport every year, whereas only I think you've only had 2 million so far on the cable card in 2 years. And it actually would make a difference.
3.9 actually, but never mind.
Yeah.
Should be 2,500 an hour, but do go on.
Sorry, go on.
This thing about airports, and all this topical stuff about airport capacity at the moment,
sure.
And yet a major rail infrastructure project, and yet it doesn't actually link up to a major network hub, i.e. the airport.
Jamie, it's a very fair point. Obviously, the location of the stations has been was settled quite some time ago, and it is fair to say that as investment now starts to flood into this part of the city, and you've seen, I'm sure Nick will be asking in a minute about all the other stuff that's happening at the ABP Business Park that is going in just on the north of the docks there. The stuff that's coming in at Silvertown. The case is, the point you are making is increasingly being made by others. Yes, of course, it's expensive. Yes, it's difficult. But, I've no doubt that one day, I'm not going to promise it's going to be in my mayoralty, Jamie, but in one day, there will be such a link. I do understand that logic.
I do hope so. Can I just add a supplementary to that? I mean, they've actually, because they decided to actually do the Crossrail there, they've built a concrete wall half a mile straight down past the airport. And we as a community are sandwiched between a Berlin Wall on one side and the city airport on the other.
Yeah, I know. I know.
And I just wonder why...
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you can probably see it. Why didn't they go underground? Why
Tell us where we're looking, Mr. Mayor. Tell the listeners where exactly you look. You seem to be pointing in the direction of exactly where James is talking about.
I'm just trying to identify where the wall he's talking about. I'm not certain.
We're just sort of leaving land, aren't we?
I can pick it out from here. But if you look, there's that tongue of land there. That's called the Limo.
So you're pointing
and there's a huge cross.
Is that Canning Town, effectively?
Can you see the huge Crossrail?
Yes.
Works over there.
That's Canning Town, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
I will certainly look into what you say, Jamie, and see what we can do to if there's anything we can do with a reasonable cost to improve lives for people there. We should certainly do it.
Let's move to the next caller. Thank you for that, Jamie.
Okay, we're going to Anthony in Fulham.
Hello,
Anthony. Good morning.
Hello. Morning, Boris. How are you?
Well, I'm very well. It's getting nice and toasty in this cable car, isn't it?
It's going to be bacon.
Lucky you.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I was going to open the window. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know we could do that.
Well, maybe you can't.
Well, yes, we
can.
Come on,
take an executive decision.
That's much better. Well done.
Let's get a breeze going.
Yeah, lovely. Can't open the door, can we?
Well, you
All right, Boris.
Should we have a sort of where
question.
Sorry, you got Anthony on the line. Come on, Anthony in Fulham.
Yeah. Sorry about yeah. So the question that I have, well, it's more like basically we seem to have a gang problem within London, or that's what the newspapers and the media sort of talk about.
Yeah.
And I know that we've got like an enforcement approach, and what I wanted to know is what is being done to have an early intervention
on the other side of the coin. Absolutely right. Actually, this is the crucial issue for us, and this is something that we decided years ago, that you couldn't just ask the police to come down hard on gangs. And they have been, and actually they've been quite successful, rounding up a lot of the key gang leaders and getting very tough on them and their lives. You've got simultaneously to go to the kids and say, well, this is the alternative for you, and here is how we're going to help you into work, the apprenticeship schemes you can sign up for. These are the things that all the diversionary activities that you can do through Team London or whatever it happens to be. And that's one of the reasons for a long time now we've supported mentoring programs, outreach programs. There are a huge number of, as everybody knows, there is a huge number of activities across London to try to engage these kids and give them a sense of purpose and optimism in their lives.
Yeah, I understand that. But one thing that, because I work within the youth sector, I do a lot of work with young people. Yeah. And we find that the first place to get cuts is the youth sector for funding. So it's difficult to get funding from government or any other organisation.
Absolutely. And, if Anthony, if you've got a particular scheme or project that you think is worthy of support from the Mayor's Fund for London, which does a lot of work with young people, or if you think that there's something some particular project that you think is worthy of support, then please get on to us. Get on either through my office to Veronica Wadley, who runs the whole Team London side of things and the Mayor's Fund, or get in touch with Stephen Greenhalgh, Deputy Mayor for Policing Crime. All right. And if there's something we can do to support your scheme, we will certainly do it. I'm conscious there are loads of people like you, Anthony, around London who are doing a fantastic amount of work in this sector, and I'm very grateful.
Okay, Anthony, it's fair to say, just to make the point, actually, that gang crime has fallen quite dramatically.
It has fallen, but
to the Met and the officers there,
absolutely, and I think they've led a very, very good policing operation. But what Anthony is saying is correct. You've got to have the other side of it. You've got to have the engagement. You've got to be reaching out to the kids.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk a little bit about the cable car. We're almost halfway across.
I think that window was a good move
in our first, and I will put more callers on if you're holding on the line. I'll come to you in just a second. Mr. Mayor, how much is a cash single fare on this cable car?
It is cheap as chips.
No, that's my piece of paper. How much is a cash single fare?
Hillary, tell Nick what a cash single fare is. You always ask
it would seem fairly relevant.
It depends. Is it about £4 or something?
Well, you tell me. You don't know, do you?
It is. We've got the figures just here. God. What have you paid it?
No, of course I haven't.
Hang on. Here we go. It's £4. We think it's £4.
It's more than that.
What is it?
You don't know. Just admit you don't know.
I think it's in the region of £4. That's what I'm getting.
£4.40.
£4.40. All right. Okay, go on.
If you use Oyster, how much is it?
Oh, God. Here we go.
Well, it's important. We live in cash-strapped times.
If you use, if you're a child.
Well, I'm not a child.
No, I'm not going to make any comment about that. But if you were to be a child, you would have it. A child would cost £2.20. For a one round trip fare is £4.40.
Yes, it is.
An adult boarding pass is £8.60. Now that's fantastic. That enables you to go round and round forever.
Is it good value for money? £4.40.
I think it's very good value for money. I mean, this is the most beautiful view in the whole of the city. What's
beautiful about it?
I think it's absolutely stupefying. Earth hath not anything to show more fair.
I can see the O2. I can see the Thames barrier.
Yes, glinting beautifully in the sun.
Two Japanese people got on this morning hoping to see Big Ben, and that's the truth.
I bet
that is absolutely
true. And they were not disappointed.
Well, as long as they had binoculars.
On the contrary, you've got a very good view of Big Ben. You weren't watching, and I can just see. Look, there's the walkie-talkie looking absolutely splendid with its.
It cost £60 million
with its Aztec death ray.
It cost 60.
It did not cost 60 million, but that was the total envelope.
How much was that,
including contingency and all the rest of it? And a great deal of that, as you know, was raised in sponsorship.
Yes, 34 million.
I think 36 million. And
36. You're right.
36.
So 24 came out of our pockets.
Well, that was the total budget, but of course that wasn't all. I don't believe that entire sum was spent.
Right.
And actually. The difference between the cable car and any other transport mode in the whole of London is that this thing already covers its costs. I mean, you make this point about the
passenger numbers declining.
No.
Yes.
The passenger numbers actually
last week 28,948.
You can pick any.
Well, we'll have the week before 34,000 plays 38,000. So numbers are declining year on year.
As far as I know, numbers aren't, those aren't the figures that we have. The figures we've got show that we've had, I think, 3.9 million rides so far. People are incredibly positive about it.
Right, we've just landed. We've just docked at Greenwich Peninsula. Would you tell London how many, to the whole country, how many people are waiting to get on, Mr. Mayor?
There is a vast crowd. There's a sea.
I know this is radio, Mr. Mayor. How many people are waiting to get on?
They are. This is, as you know, we have been incredibly generous to you, Nick, in deciding.
Mr. Mayor, how many people are waiting to get on?
Well, I can see at least one chap
He
here.
works for you. He's staff.
And that shows what a great scheme it is, because this scheme
there's a man standing there in a hat.
is generating employment in a part of London that was neglected for decades, and it is bringing investment. And if you look at, if you talk to the
no interest whatsoever. You could fire a cannon through here and no one would get hurt.
It's completely untrue. It is absolutely on school holidays.
So we built it
later in the day. It absolutely. It starts heaving. We have about 7,000 commuters in this who use it every day on this route alone.
Right.
On this route from Newham to Greenwich, and it is of course it's a tourist attraction and it does serve that purpose, but it is also a part of the transport network, and it is unlike any other, as I say, unlike any other piece of transport infrastructure. It covers its cost, and it's also delivering regeneration and investment in this part of London. The Silvertown stuff, ABP, and people mention it to me. They say, you know, thank goodness you've got a really proactive policy. You're prepared to commit and to invest. And very largely, we did it with private funding.
Let's move on to other calls. We'll talk more about...
Can we go to Richard now in Thames Mead?
Yes, good morning, Boris.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, I can almost see you. I live on the river.
Oh, fantastic.
And, with a pair of binoculars, I think I might be able to see you. But what I wanted to say was, to echo one of your earlier callers, the cable car isn't as bad as Nick keeps fulminating about. It is quite an interesting event, and it is a glorious view, but it doesn't go anywhere. Your earlier caller suggested a stop off to the airport. My suggestion would be Westfield Shopping Centre, which
that's a good idea. Yeah,
a bit of a schlep, really, but not impossible with modern technology. And you would get a link up from the O2 right up to a decent shopping centre, and I think usage would grow exponentially with that kind of service.
Actually, Richard, we have been looking at that, and you may not. I mean, Nick will absolutely scoff at this, but when the European Commissioner for Regional Funding, we got some of our money back, as it were, because you remember we contribute a huge amount of money to the EU budget, and so you have to fight to get funds back. We got some funding for this cable car from Brussels, and the guy came over to have a look at it, and he was so thrilled. He said, "Why don't we do another?" It was his immediate reaction. He thought it was a great regeneration project, and we could look at that. I think, just to get back to the point that you made, it doesn't really go anywhere. In the 18th century, early 19th century, Jane Austen was writing novels in which she would describe this remote North London as this remote village to the north of London called Highbury, or where nobody went to, and there's now a massive.
Are you a modern-day Jane Austen?
No, what I'm suggesting is that...
I know you have a novelist beating inside your breast, so obviously you think you're Jane Austen.
No, Nick, pay attention. The argument is that what people think of as nowhere in one generation can become the centre of a fantastic place to live in the next generation. Actually, I think that there's a lot of stuff that's going to start happening in this area. Just turn around, just look behind you now, Nick, and look at that whole scene. I took Arnold...
look at that tug going along the river.
No, look at that fantastic opportunity area for development and improvement.
Tell everybody what we're... City Airport.
Yeah, the City Airport, and all this site here. Yes. And I took Arnold Schwarzenegger up here, and
what, on the cable car?
Yeah, on the cable car. It was fantastic. And I said, there is Canning Town, and there is Silvertown. He said, very nice, very nice. And he was absolutely thrilled.
So that's what we've spent all this money on, so you can take Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he can say, did he promise he'll be back?
He did. This was during the Olympics when he was. He wanted to watch an event in the XL.
Okay, very good too. Now, you may recall, everybody, that last week we featured the State of London debate on LBC. And David in Fulham was asking a particular question. He asked of the Mayor if there were plans to bulldoze the estate. This is his question.
Since then, for months, I've been waiting to hear whether you have signed a document to say whether you're going to demolish our flats or not. It's a regeneration going on in Fulham.
I don't think we are, but I'm going to...
Well, you must know. I mean, it's quite an important thing with respect.
Yes, I know it is, but I'm not going to make a statement that I have to retract if I can possibly avoid it. I will check. What the answer is indeed yes or no. So I will have to. Right. You'll have to forgive me.
The Mayor is with me next week.
I'm almost certain the answer is no.
David in Hammersmith joins us now. David, you're through to the Mayor, who's got some paperwork in front of him. Morning, David.
Well, David.
Hello, Nick.
Good morning.
Hi, Mr. Johnson.
Good morning, David. Thank you very much for your question. I'm sorry I couldn't answer you precisely last week. I do have the answer. I mean, it's not a city hall plan. It's not a mayoral plan at all. But there is a planning application from Hammersmith and Fulham to do this, and what they want to do is, and I'm not stopping them from doing this. What I could do is call it in and try and stop them, but at the moment I'm not stopping them, because what they argue is that yours is one of 8 homes that they think they can greatly they can give you a better quality of housing, because your home is...
So you're not giving me a yes or no, but it's a no. Well, it's a yes then. So in other words, you're not calling in. You are going to sign the piece of paper, and you realise that you're essentially sending our little community to its doom in that case. And we are only 18 years old. The flats are 18 years old, brand new. Really, yes. A great community. We've got kids, elderly, black, white, Muslim, Christian, you name it, and we're being socially cleansed. And you're going to go along with that?
Well, no. The argument is that from Hammersmith and Fulham that the homes had a real reduction in the quality of life caused by the Thames Tideway tunnel, which is going to produce all sorts of noise and disturbance. And their argument is that I'm just repeating what Hammersmith and Fulham say. I repeat, this is not my scheme. It's what the Hammersmith and Fulham want to do.
Washing their hands. I can't get any answers. You're supposed to be paid, politicians, to put forward a better future for our children and Londoners in general, and it's just not happening. And that's why we need a clean sweep here. I'm sorry, but if you can't do the job.
Well, what you're certainly going to get, as I understand, is a demolition of the homes concerned, and what they want to do is to house you in much better
we've got disabled and elderly people here who are extremely distressed, and I've been trying to give them some solid...
David, it's Nick Ferrari. I have to put to you the point. I get your reaction on this. The Mayor is saying that actually the housing that will be provided will be better. How do you respond to that?
No, that's not true. We're losing garden space. We're basically going to be put in we're being put in tiny little places looking at a wall. We look at a river now. That's why they want our view, Nick. They're stealing our view.
Okay, let's just hear from the Mayor.
I'm afraid I don't. There's got to be some local devolution of authority here, and I'm afraid this is a matter for your locally elected council to decide. It is their scheme. They assure me, Mr. McGinty, they assure me that the homes that you will have will be much better. Obviously, that's a view you dispute, but that is their view.
David.
And
we might discuss this subsequently, David. I do think it's a good idea. Take it up with your local authority. Do let us know how you get on. I'll make sure a reporter stays close to you, Mr. Mayor.
Can we go to Annie in Bexley?
Good morning, Mayor Boris. Delighted to speak with you. As a man of culture, that's why I thought I would ring you this morning, because I was incensed to hear last night that Greenwich Council have made the decision to demolish the only cultural building existing in Woolwich at the moment. In Woolwich, which is the heart of the council's territory, where the council offices are, the civic centre is, there's a theatre, an old 1930s, beautiful old cinema. That's the only old, lovely, functioning performance space in Woolwich. Right. And the council has now decided that we need yet more flats in a place that's full of regeneration along the Woolwich Arsenal.
Is it a cinema now or a theatre now?
It's trying to be both spaces, so it's a performance, a community. Okay.
What's it called, Annie, for people in Woolwich? It's not called the Tram Shed.
No, it's called the Woolwich Grand Theatre.
Woolwich Grand Theatre.
Woolwich Grand Theatre.
Are you aware of this, in its heyday?
I'm not aware of the Woolwich Grand Theatres or indeed the threat to its existence. Okay. So I'm going to get on. I'm going to find out from my culture team, Annie, what if anything we can do to help you.
Okay, Annie, stay on the line and talk to one of my colleagues. It's a bit difficult because you've actually hit the mayor completely. Mr. Mayor, both these last two calls speak to, and you know how important housing is. The trouble is that people say we need more housing, and yet when it impinges on them personally, they obviously have a different view, Mr. Mayor. How do you balance this?
Well, it is very difficult, and I have to be very careful what I say because I also have lots of planning responsibilities in London, and I'm very keen to see good, beautiful developments go ahead. But I mustn't go into too much detail about them because I get into trouble. It's certainly true that there is a big inconsistency, a big incoherence in some of the arguments we're hearing at the moment, because a lot of local councils and local politicians will say, on the one hand, we need much more affordable homes, and we do, and we're building them, but then when it comes to big schemes that could really provide those homes, good quality new homes, you get all sorts of objections, and that's why in the last 30 years it's been so difficult and so slow to build new homes, and you've heard some of those voices over the last few days.
We've just landed, so we've now completed our first double crossing, if you will. We've been across the river. We've come back to the north side of the river, the Emirates Royal Docks terminal. Matto the Stato. How many people now?
We just passed some.
44 in 2.5 hours, Mr. Mayor.
Delirious punters.
And let's see, how many people are waiting at this end? Passengers.
I think
how many passengers?
A multitude.
How many? No, not your staff.
Well, hang on. Let's interrogate them. Can you, for the purposes of the argument, pose as a passenger?
No, he works with me.
All right.
So far, when we landed at the other end, zero.
We did pass.
That was my reporter.
We did pass. No, it wasn't. There were two there were beaming, happy, waving.
So
punters.
just a reminder. So how many people are getting on now? We've zero again.
Well, I know, but you're occupying the.
Well, there's enough spare pods to go around. We move on to other calls.
There are, and I just repeat for people joining this show, where I've got Nick Ferrari here on the cable car, the Emirates airline. We're about to be hoisted aloft again over the beautiful landscape of East London. It is looking absolutely dreamy, and everywhere you look, you can see the infrastructure, the investment that is going in, partly driven by this cable car project. Now, we're going to Dennis in Greece.
Go ahead, Dennis. Dennis, speak.
Dennis,
hello?
We've got... Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Put your question to the mayor, Dennis.
Yeah, sure. Boris, I was driving the other day, early in the morning, in charge zone. I do it very, very rarely, but it was one of these. Right. And I tried to make sure that I clear the congestion zone for 7 o'clock, but as it happened, I probably didn't.
I think we're having trouble. I think we're going to try and get Dennis back on another line. Dennis was in Greece.
It's fantastic.
Which leads me neatly into the...
Isn't it amazing, you know, that we can run a radio show on a cable car and have a phone in from Greece at the same time?
Well, it's not that amazing. 40 years ago, we landed a man on the moon and we spoke to him there, so it's not that much to talk about 300 feet above the Thames in reality.
We're talking about LBC here.
We spoke to Neil Armstrong, if you recall, in late 60s.
Well,
there we are. Okay.
Run us down there.
Dennis in Greece leads me neatly into the European question. David Cameron's position over Jean-Claude Juncker, right or wrong?
Well, I think it was completely right to
alienate
to say no to Jean-Claude Juncker.
Why?
Because I don't think he's the right candidate for the job. But we've got him now, and that's we should push on.
But how can you push on if you've bitterly opposed him? You've raised your head above the parapet, as Mr. Cameron chose to do. It's a humbling defeat, isn't it?
I have to say that I think it shows that Britain is going to be very determined in the Intergovernmental Conference in a couple of years' time, and to fight very hard for reform. But I think what it also shows, and this is, I do think it was a disgrace on the part of the other European countries, when a major state says that they don't want the Commission President, for whatever reason, it wasn't really an objection to Monsieur Juncker. It was an objection to the notion that he could be appointed by the European Parliament. The point of principle was that it's up to the Council, the heads of state and government, to decide who should be the European Commission President, not up to the European Parliament, and that was absolutely.
Would you have done that? Would you have done what Mr. Cameron did?
I think I was very interested to see that it was decided that the Luxembourg Compromise could not be. But the Luxembourg Compromise is, as you recall, what you can do when you feel there's a major point of principle at stake, which is what I think the French did in 1967 or thereabouts over agriculture, and they basically said, right, stuff this. We are going to invoke our right to bring the whole thing to a halt.
Right. Would you have done the same?
I think I would have done, because in the end...
Because Harriet Harman says it was a shambles and it was a disgrace.
No, I think it was completely right. And I think actually you've got to ask yourself, what is the European Union actually doing now that is of such vital importance that it could not be interrupted for a while we sorted out this point? The treaty is completely ambiguous. It seems to say, on the one hand, that the appointment of the President of the Commission should be made by the Council, on the other hand, that the European Parliament should be involved. Now, I think that this is a decision that should be made by heads of state and government. That's always been the tradition. So, that is the point that David Cameron was trying to vindicate, and it was complete. In the history of the European community, Common Market, European Union, it is absolutely unheard of for a major member state to be overruled in this way when they've taken a decision on a point of principle.
And just lastly, as a result, is the Conservative Party more united or less united?
I think the Conservative Party is absolutely passionately united behind David Cameron and wants to, and I think you're
despite a shambles, as it's been called.
People will always say, people will call all sorts of things a shambles, but was a Prime Minister who knows his own mind, who knows what he wants to achieve, and who's willing to go all the way, to fight to the bitter end in Brussels to stand up for what he believes in. It would have been all too easy for David Cameron to say to the other heads of government, I'll roll over then, I accept, and with ill grace to have conceded Monsieur Juncker. Actually, what he did was say, no, that's not good enough. I disagree vehemently with what you're trying to do. Let us have a vote, and let's get that vote on the record. That's what, and he did that.
Let's move on to other calls, Mr. Mayor.
We're going to Brian in Rotherhithe.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Nick.
Good morning, Brian.
I wanted to ask you a question about London's infrastructure, broadband in particular. Last week, you launched a report with Michael Bloomberg, which said one of the issues facing London is broadband speeds.
Absolutely
in places like Rotherhithe, groups of people are looking at alternatives where they want to provide the service locally owned and managed, because at the moment broadband speeds on the moon are faster than they are in Rotherhithe. How can you help us?
Brian, I'm very concerned about broadband speeds in the centre of London. I think it's absolutely disgraceful that we're not going fast. In fact, I was talking last night to the head of BT about the problem. We really need to do much better. London is shooting the lights out compared to most other European cities on the whole tech business. We are easily the tech capital of Europe, and yet we're still lagging behind in broadband speeds. And what you say about Rotherhithe is absolutely right, and there are plenty of other areas.
So what's to be done?
So, we've got, as there's a big fund that we've made available to local people, to local businesses. They can get £3,000, I think.
Speak up, Brian. What was your point, Brian?
They can get £3,000 each to help them install broadband, but I'd like to know more about your solution.
Brian, go ahead.
It's the connection voucher scheme, which is only for businesses, and you can't connect if it's not there in the first place. Our solution is a fibre, a locally owned and managed fibre solution, which we can do very, very quickly, cheaper and better than BT, in our view.
Yeah. Well, I'd be very keen to have a look at that and to support. I mean, to be fair to BT, what they say is that they are being absolutely mucked around by the councils because, for instance, in the centre of town, in Kensington, Chelsea, or in Westminster or wherever, they're finding that when they asked for the permission to install the equipment they need, a sort of big green box on the pavement or whatever it is, to get the broadband into people's homes, they're being mucked around for month after month after month. And so what you've got is the classic British problem of planning controls, and that seems to be slowing us down with broadband. Frank, sorry, not Frank, but Brian, if you want to come and talk to us about your scheme, if there's anything we can do to support you, then I'm absolutely passionately keen to do that. I am fed up with this broadband issue. We must get this thing sorted out.
Let's move on. Now, this is an intriguing call, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Frank, you are allegedly on the cable car.
Yes, I'm still here on the cable car.
You're still here on the cable car. How long have you been on the cable car, Frank?
Oh, we're just going over the second pass now.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, we'll have to wave.
Where are you?
I'm just leaving now. We just left the, I think it's the south side, the Greenwich, the Millennium
we're going to
side.
Yeah, we're going to see you. You're about 2 cars down, I think. We'll give you a wave. This is extraordinary. This is what radio was invented for. To your question, Frank.
Hi, Boris. It's Frank.
Frank, yes, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm absolutely fine. It's an absolutely beautiful day, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So,
what's your question, Frank?
My question is that my wife and I, again, are going to see Monty Python tonight at the O2.
Oh, yes, and I can see you, Frank. We're just going past you. I think I can see you on the phone there. There you go.
Well, it works for 6 people anyway. Apologies to the rest of us. You're going to go and see Monty Python at the O2, where we're landing just now. What's your question of the Mayor?
That's right. My question is, I think it finishes, probably finish around 10, 11 o'clock, and then we're going to make our way back over to the river to the park at Royal Victoria. But I think the cable car actually stops operation at 9 o'clock. Am I right?
Right.
Good question. When does the cable car cease operation, Mr. Mayor, at night?
You may very well be right.
That's the next caller.
You may very well be right.
That's the next caller. What time does it finish?
I cannot give you the timetables here, but when our door is about to open...
So you have no idea what time it stops operation?
I think it sounds to me as though Frank may very well be right.
Why doesn't it run through the night to get people away from... Frank, thank you if we lose you. Why doesn't it run through the night?
One day it will. One step at a time. Don't forget, we're not yet running the tube at night. And, we will. Well, that's coming in 20...
But the point of the O2
that's coming
well
next
made.
year.
Thank you.
That's coming next year.
That's my briefing note. It runs them from 7 a.m. Monday to Friday, and 8 a.m. Saturday, and 9 a.m. Sunday, and it closes at 8 during the winter months.
Yeah, and 9
runs till 9
well,
during the summer months.
Frank is completely correct.
So no concert at the O2 ends by 9 o'clock.
Sure.
Or show, I should say, not my concert.
But Frank...
So why... Well, it's obviously no use at the O2, is it?
It is. The O2, as everybody knows, is very well provided for by the Jubilee line, which is that.
Now we've just landed at the Emirates Greenwich Peninsula terminal. How many people have got on, Mr. Mayor?
I've just seen somebody get on. I don't know why you're.
If there's any way that we can speak to that man, it might be quite a good idea.
Why don't you?
But that's a very good point, isn't it? Why does the cable car not run for longer hours? At least then we could see some value after the end of the O2.
I think that the current timetable is very good, and there's no need to.
Why?
Because
it would be full after a show, wouldn't it?
It serves well because I'm not certain that it would, but I'll certainly look into it.
Nighttime running.
I'll certainly look into it.
We move on to other questions. One person. Tom. So this is the third time we've been at a terminal. At least he's got off. He's got off.
No, he hasn't. He's probably. Where is he?
No,
he's still sitting in the corner. He's taking a photo. He's sitting in the corner. He's taking a photograph of you.
No, sir, it's not the Victoria line. No, do go on.
He's not. Hasn't got off. He's in a state of such bliss that he's reclining. He cannot believe how beautiful it is. That's what's happening. We're going to Tom in Cobham. Look, there he is taking photos.
So excited. Tom, go ahead with your question.
Go on.
Can I ask why you wasted £60 million on a cable car which doesn't carry that many regular commuters when that could have been spent on saving fire stations which were vital to London's safety?
Well, I think I've just to repeat the point. The bill of £60 million is inaccurate, and actually there's a huge
36
amount. 36 came from sponsorship. The thing covers its revenue costs, and it's delivering a huge amount of regeneration value in this part of the city. It has about 30,000 people a week who ride on it, and just to Tom, is it Tom?
Tom, we're hearing, yes, Tom in Cobham.
Tom, there is no other piece of infrastructure that is covering its capital and its revenue costs. Right. And on fire stations, there was a program that I think was very sensible, which actually liberates a lot of space for other uses, and we've been talking earlier on about the huge problems we got with finding accommodation in the city, and that was.
I've got to do some email questions, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Al in Bexley, I think we need a snooper's charter, as the press are calling it. Nick Clegg says we don't. Who's right and why? A snooper's charter. This is the idea, of course. Charter. This is the idea of extra surveillance powers for Theresa May, the Home Secretary, in the light of the 400 jihadists who have voyaged to Syria. The danger is, of course, it's feared they might come back with nothing but evil in their heart. Theresa May is saying we need increased surveillance. We need to monitor people's emails, mobile phones, and use of social media. Nick Clegg says no.
Look, I've become much more hardline about this since taking this job 5 or 6, 7 years ago. And I think that we do have to recognise there is a very serious threat from people in this city who mean society no good, and there is a threat from people coming back from Syria.
So we need increased surveillance.
I certainly would not be averse me invigilated, provided there are the proper controls. I'm absolutely content that the Home Secretary should have power to authorise the monitoring of the communications of people who could threaten our society.
And Nick Clegg is wrong on this.
And I'm not going to clash unnecessarily with old Cleggers. I always seem to be disagreeing with Nick Cleggers. I think that when you look at the record of the police over the last few years, look at what the security services have done, it is outstanding. You cannot ever be complacent. There is a real risk now. We think there are about 450 people out there in Syria who are coming back. In my view, they should all be monitored the whole time, if not arrested for what is, after all, a crime. Because in many cases they will have been involved in warfare, in violence in Syria, and that is breaking the law, and that should be
another call, if you would.
We're going to Howard now in Hackney.
Speak, Howard. Go ahead. Your question.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Nick, you're missing. Can I just, Howard? I don't want to interrupt you, but we're just pointing out some happy punters on the cable card. Isn't it?
Yeah. Go ahead with your question, Howard, if you would.
Okay, my question is with regards to the recent London taxi driving that brought down to the standstill the other week over the licensing of a company called Uber.
Yes.
Now, the general public have a mistaken impression that it's actually the London taxi trade have got a problem with the company Uber. In reality, what the problem is that the technology they're using, the London taxi trade is saying that it uses a meter, and London black cabs are the only vehicles allowed to use a meter in London with regard to the passengers.
I understand that.
For London, and Mr. Daniels has taken the position, Peter Hendy, has taken the position they can't decide whether or not Uber's technology is a meter or not, so they referred it to the High Courts for a decision.
I've got to move you to your question. What's your question? I've got to get your question, Howard.
My question is, if they don't know whether it's legal or not, why has Transport for London licensed it until
I'll tell you, it's a very simple. No, this is all, I think, going before the courts very soon. So I've got to be careful what I say about all this, Howard, because I don't want to seem to be trying to prejudice anything. But the advice, I think there's a very simple answer to what you say, and that the advice that we initially got from TfL Council, or from Council to TfL, was that this was legal, and that was the difficulty that Peter and Leon found themselves in, and I think that I said that we had to test this in the courts. We had to make sure that we got a proper judicial ruling on this, and because the difficulty was that if we'd simply, Howard, as you'll appreciate, if we'd simply tried to ban this, there would have been an immediate action by the company that you name. And that has been given so much publicity as a result of all these demonstrations. And I'm afraid that we might well have lost in the court.
We've only got a couple of minutes left. We're celebrating the 12-month anniversary, the first birthday of Ask Boris, and I felt it only appropriate. No, it is. I felt it only appropriate that we offered you some form of gift. So, as a happy birthday gift,
thank you.
If you'd like to tell everybody what you're getting,
I don't know what it is. It's like a sou'wester.
It is, of course, because the next thing we're going to be doing together, Mr. Mayor, is We're going to stand in front of the water cannon.
That's right, the water cannon. That's right.
So if you'd like to hold it up just for the camera, there we are.
Thank you very much for the.
Yes.
That looks.
How close? How close? How close are we?
I think to the water cannon. I don't know. I suppose we'll have to stand within whatever.
Well, they're on their way, aren't they?
A reasonable
they're making their way. No. How close are we to doing the challenge?
Well, as you know, the procedure is that the water cannon, I think, are due to arrive fairly soon. But there needs to be by September. I think they will actually be here. Mm-hmm. But there needs to be the issuing of a license.
They're literally at sea now, apparently. On the high waves. Yes, they are. We might see them sail in. Next,
there needs to be a license from the Home Secretary. And look, let's be absolutely clear about these jobs. I don't want to see them used. I don't want to see them ever used on the streets of London. I had a very difficult decision to make, which was the police wanted them and made a case for them and said that they would be a valuable addition to their strategies.
Yes.
And there might be, in the tiny number of situations, there might be a moment when they'd actually be of value. So you've got to think about that.
Okay. Next Monday sees the Tour de France coming through London, doesn't it? There are going to be a lot of people whose traffic journeys and commute times are going to be inconvenienced. Yes, why are you turning London upside down for some cyclists?
I apologise to all those whose lives are going to be disturbed by the Tour de France.
Why are we doing it?
Well, because it's a great event, and because it does...
Well, so's the British Grand Prix. Why don't we have that down Hyde Park?
We might.
What? You're going to have the British Grand Prix down Hyde Park?
We've thought about it.
When did you think about it?
It's one of those things that...
you want to put the British Grand Prix on London streets?
What I would actually like
Monaco
is to have an electric Grand Prix. That's one of the things we're looking at. And to do that in...
like electric cars?
No. Electric, wonderful, fast... super fast electric cars.
Who would be the professional drivers?
Yeah. And
where would you stage it?
We might stage it on the on the area we've been looking at around the
river
around the Olympic Park and thereabouts. And
when is that going to happen?
As for your question about
when is that going to happen? The electric Grand Prix.
There is something coming up. I think we're doing it in Battersea.
You just said you were doing it here at the Olympic Park.
There we go. Well, no, Hillary just whispered at me that actually we're doing something in Battersea.
When are we... Why don't we interview Hillary? This is clearly... Hillary, when is it going to start, Hillary?
The electric? We are doing something. We'll get back to you. It's going to be fantastic.
This year?
It's pretty soon, I think.
Is it the electric Grand Prix? Have you publicised?
Yes, I don't know why you keep diverting yourself.
You were
asking a very aggressive question about bicycling, and you've now disappeared up a corner.
Well, yes, now you're turning London upside down.
That's right.
Because...
Stick to the point. Look, we've got a wonderful scheme for an electric Grand Prix, which we're going to do either here or in Battersea, depending on what we discover about where it's happening. But the reason we're...
This year, and you don't know where it's going to be.
It's fairly soon. The reason we are doing the Grand Prix, the Tour de France.
Thank God for Hillary.
The reason we're doing the Tour de France is that we want to boost cycling, and it brings a huge amount of income to the capital. It's a massive event.
How much income?
We think about £100 million is the figure that we're looking at. And
this electric Grand Prix is
next June.
Next June.
Next June, the cars will race around Battersea Park next June. A pioneering Grand Prix style motor race.
I sense you're reading now.
Attracting tens of thousands of spectators.
And where were the professional racing drivers?
I guess so. Yes, absolutely.
Where are you going to get them from?
There are oodles of professional racing drivers. We lead the world in the supply of professional racing drivers. There's no shortage of
okay, well, we look forward to that. Right, the journey is over. We've made 2 crossings. We're at the Royal Docks Terminal. How many people waiting to board, Mr. Mayor?
They were all happily able to get on before we came round, and we've passed many smiling people.
And now we must come to an end, otherwise we're going to go all the way back. And your watch is running 5 minutes fast. Why do you keep your watch so fast?
Is it running fast?
Yeah, it is.
Have we come to the end of the show?
We come to the end of the show. Yes, so we have to get off. Don't forget your sou'wester. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both our listeners.
And this is the end of Ask Boris as we safely 2 crossings. London Mayor Boris Johnson, thank you. On Ask Boris, 12 months.
And don't forget, the cable car is still sensational value. The best way of crossing the Thames and delivering jobs and growth in Newham and Greenwich.
You've been listening to Ask Boris on LBC, where news is next.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.